People who watch and read and listen to me know that generally speaking, I've been pretty optimistic about Democrats' chances of winning back the House, the US House in 2026, mostly because the numbers are pretty clear historically. In 42 elections, midterm elections held since 1856, when we got a two-party system, 38 times, 38 out of those 42 elections showed the president's party losing ground in the House. So that's a pretty big sample. But I do want to talk about a piece in the New York Times this week, which addresses something that I have heard over and over again for the last 18 months minimum from smart Democratic strategists, which is Democrats are falling behind on registering voters in their party. This was always a place where Democrats had an advantage. They are losing that advantage in lots and lots of states, and it matters. And this Times piece, I think, is critical. Let's go through some of it. Now, first of all, 30 states allow you to register by party. In 20 states, there is no party registration. You register to vote. You don't register as a Democrat or a Republican. But 30 states plus the District of Columbia, you can register to vote as a Democrat, Republican, or an independent. Okay. Some of these numbers, I wrote a bunch of this stuff down because these numbers are stunning. So in every state, all 30 that the Times looked at, between 20 and 24, between the 2020 election, 2024 election, Democrats lost ground on voter registration in every single state. During that time, Democrats overall went down 2.1 million people registered to vote for Democrats, while Republicans went up 2.4 million people. Okay, so that's a gap of 4.5 million. Democrats down 2.1, Republicans up 2.4. In 2024, so election year, it was the first year since 2018 that more people registered in these 30 states as Republicans than Democrats. I mean, so these stats are just stunning. In 2018, new voters under the age of 45, which is most of new voters under the age of 45, 2/3 of them registered as Democrats. In 2024, new voters under the age of 45, a majority of them were registering as Republicans. In Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, the four swing states that register voters by party, Democratic Party registration erosion happened in all four of those states. In places like Nevada, a massive erosion. Florida and New Hampshire, which were on the verge of being swing states in past years, there are now more registered Republicans than Democrats in those states. This is just a gigantic problem. For a couple reasons. So the logistical reason is you obviously need to have as many people registered to vote in your party as possible, because you want to get everyone who could be for you to be for you, to be registered for you. Just, in theory, if there are more Democratic registered voters than Republican registered voters, you have a better chance at winning. Just because you're a registered Democrat or a registered Republican doesn't mean you have to vote that way, but usually people do. So just logistically, it's a gigantic problem. And I think that problem speaks to the fact that Democrats have sort of outsourced party registration over the last 6 to 10 years. They've let these outside super PACs and outside groups funded by wealthy donors be in charge of it rather than the national party. And that's a problem. That suggests that it's just these outside groups are not doing as good a job as the national party did. We can debate why that is, but I think it is clear that it is happening, and that's a big issue because Republicans do, in fact, still use the Republican National Committee to register most of their voters, to run their voter operations. One little thing there before I get to the second point. By the end of July, this is stunning. By the end of July, the Republican National Committee had more than $84 million in the bank to spend on the 2026 election. The Democratic National Committee had less than $14 million. That's a $70 million difference. So that's a big problem. Even if the DNC wanted to take back over its party registration efforts, it may not have the money to, whereas the Republican Party does. So on one level, it's a logistics and operations problem. But on another level, and both of these are to blame for why Democrats are where they are, it's a kind of brand issue, right? The number that stood out to me, and I read this once, but I think this speaks to the brand problem that are people are wanting to be Republicans rather than Democrats at this point. In 2018, voters under 45. So again, most of that is voters who are 18 to 22 who are just coming into the possibility of voting. 2/3 of those people were registering as Democrats. Last year, new voters under 45, a majority of them were registering as Republicans. And again, I do think that's really important because it speaks to one brand is more attractive, particularly to voters under 45, than the other. This isn't just an organization and logistics problem, although it is an organization and logistics problem. It is also speaks to the fact that the Republican brand is more appealing, or maybe better put, the Democratic brand is less appealing to younger and new voters. That's a gigantic problem. I've talked relentlessly about Democratic brand issues. This is one way that it shows up in a sort of powerful and important way. So yes, historical trends suggest that when a president is under 45% of job approval, the gains for the other party in a midterm election in the House are, in the dozens of seats on average. That's where we are right now with Donald Trump's approval. But I do think numbers like this and that huge financial disparity between the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee, $70 million disparity, should give Democrats pause. Because those are the sorts of things that we could look back after 2026 if Democrats don't get the gains that the history suggests they should, and say, ooh, this is the reason. All right, that's it for me. Do me one favor. Hit that subscribe button. You'll get free content just like this every single day, and I'll continue to grow as an independent news creator. Take care.